Vi diskuterar skandinaviska filmer i skräckfilmplanen.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Horror Movie Syllabus. I'm Professor Victor, and as usual, I'll be your host as we go through all of the essential, must-see, noteworthy, and interesting modern horror films. If you're new to the channel, I recommend you check out our introduction video, link to that in the description below. But what we do here at the Horror Movie Syllabus is examine 3 representative examples of a particular subgenre of horror. Today what we're looking at is Scandinavian horror films. Now, if you're like me and you don't know that much about Scandinavia, it's a sub-region of Europe that basically contains Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. It's a beautiful region, not that I've ever been there, but based on the movies we're about to take a look at, it certainly looks like it's gorgeous. And the movies that come out of this region tend to be really good. I'd say that while they don't produce a lot of movies, the movies they do produce seem to be top-notch, so maybe it's quality over quantity when it comes to Scandinavia. Today we're going to look at 3 such quality films, and we've categorized them as undergraduate, graduate, and postgraduate like we do here at the Horror Movie Syllabus. This time those levels are going to indicate the order in which I like them the most. With that said, let's go ahead and get right to the films. Our first film, the undergraduate film, is Troll Hunter. Troll Hunter is a 2010 Norwegian film. It's a found footage movie about a group of people who go searching for and hunting giant trolls. I suppose the title of the movie is fairly self-explanatory. Now, while it is found footage and it came out a full decade or so after the Blair Witch Project, there was a lot of comparisons between the two movies in Norway area from my research. Apparently, it was very well received as potentially like the next Blair Witch, the next phenomenon. And it's easy to see why when you watch the movie. It's very much following the concept of the Blair Witch Project in terms of a quite literal found footage with people who have gone missing. And that does add a lot. However, because the Blair Witch Project had already been seen, nobody's buying that it's a real story like the Blair Witch Project. So there's not that added level of dread or concern about that. But this movie doesn't care about that. This movie's not really trying to scare you so much as it is trying to entertain you. And on that level, it definitely succeeds. The movie does a really good job of taking its surroundings and making that part of the plot in often hilarious ways. For example, power lines are explained as necessary to keep trolls caged into certain geographic areas. That's fun. That's clever. And I smiled every time they did stuff like that. I thought that was a really fun way to work their environment into the story in a way that made sense. The actors are all likable, and for a found footage movie, I think it's shot rather well. There's always the issue with found footage movies being a little bit herky-jerky or having some issues with the camera angles being kind of implausible, and some of that's true here as well. But overall, I think it's the aesthetic works really well. It's fun. And side note on it, the scenery is gorgeous. As I was saying earlier in the video, this region is beautiful, and Troll Hunter captures some really gorgeous scenery. They go to some beautiful locations, and as a travelogue, it works rather well. I mean, aside from the giant trolls who are destroying the landscape, but it really is a fun movie. It's not taking itself too seriously. The dialogue is kind of hysterical, and it's not being played hysterical. It's being played deadpan serious, and that's what I think makes it work really, really well. The movie was directed by Andre Averdal. I'm not 100% sure that I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he was the person who directed the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark that came out recently. And that one, the design of the creatures looked really, really good. I really praised the visual aesthetic of that movie a lot. I will praise the visual aesthetic of this movie as well, although caveat number 1, it's a found footage movie. And caveat number 2, not all of the special effects shots look great. Sometimes the trolls look amazing. Sometimes they look like people in suits. So it's not across the board unilaterally great looking, but when it looks good, it looks really good. And they do a lot with a little. You can tell they didn't have a tremendous amount of budget on this, and the technology was not the same as it would be for like a Jurassic Park or a Star Wars. But given those limitations, they did an excellent job. It's a very well-made movie. You can tell that everybody who made it is having fun, and as a result, the audience has fun. This movie was a hit in Norway, but it was also a hit here and other places. Not like a hit like a big box office hit, but it's got a very positive word of mouth. If you look up the reviews online, people love this movie, and with good reason. It's a lot of fun. It's charming. It's not a tremendously scary movie, but it's definitely enjoyable and entertaining. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's definitely a very very good movie, and you should definitely see it. Our next movie, our undergraduate movie, is Dead Snow. Dead Snow is another Norwegian film, and it came out around the same time as Troll Hunter, but it's a very different film in the sense that it's not chasing trolls, it's dealing with Nazi zombies. That's right, Nazi zombies. There are a lot of zombie films out there, and so many so that it kind of just all kind of blurs together, but every once in a while, a zombie film stands out. Now, we'll talk about this more when we talk about zombies on the horror movie syllabus, but for now, I just want to point out that Dead Snow is one of those zombie movies that stands out. And the reason why is not just because it's Nazi zombies, because believe it or not, there's a lot of Nazi zombie movies as well. So much so that I legitimately considered having a Nazi zombie subgenre in the horror movie syllabus. No, the reason why Dead Snow stands out is because it's well made and it's a lot of fun. The movie doesn't take itself very seriously and it's unabashedly gory. Like they're just having a tremendous amount of fun with the gore and the kills. It's a bloodbath in the funnest possible way. It's ridiculous, and if you want to have a good time and you let yourself have a good time, this movie will definitely be a good time. The movie's plot is pretty simple. People are trapped in a cabin and they get attacked by Nazi zombies. Not a whole lot to it. But what's interesting about it, when I was doing a little bit of the research on it, was that the plot of the movie is based on a Scandinavian folklore called the Draugr. Not 100% sure how to pronounce that either. But the folklore is basically about the undead coming back to greedily protect their treasures. And that's basically the plot of this movie, the Nazi zombies who want to take all their stolen treasures and keep the people from finding them or getting them. And I like that. I like that they took a local legend or a regional legend and turned that into the plot of a fairly silly but ultimately incredibly fun movie. Like I said, I know that a lot of people are burned out on zombies. They're not really that into them. This one, I think, is an exception. You can make an exception for it. It's a tremendous amount of fun. Again, it's pretty graphic, pretty gory. So if you're squeamish about that sort of thing, and you might be aware of that before you check this one out. But if that doesn't bother you, and for most of the people who are interested in horror, that's not going to be a big hurdle for them. This movie is definitely a lot of fun. And that's the thing that I keep coming back to over and over again. This movie was just fun. It's not deep. It's not monumental. It's well made. It's well shot. And once again, the scenery is gorgeous. It's just a beautiful, beautiful place. Norway is probably a place to visit because it just looks beautiful. And that's a fun part of the movie as well, is that you've got this beautiful and somewhat serene backdrop, and then all this Nazi zombie gore in the forefront, blood being splattered on snow. It's a powerful image, and it works really well. I can't praise it enough. I had so much fun watching this movie. It's a blast. I would definitely recommend it. There is a sequel, and I honestly, I don't know why there haven't been a slew of sequels. I don't know why there hasn't been a big franchise out of this, because it seems like this is a formula that you could perpetuate over and over again as long as you kept the fun levels up. It seems ripe for a franchise, and I don't know why they haven't done one yet, because it seems like people who are familiar with the movie like the movie. If you haven't seen it, give it a chance. Join the group of people who really like this movie, and let us know in the comments below what you think of it. The last movie that we're talking about today, our postgraduate level movie, is Let the Right One In. Let the Right One In is a 2008 Swedish film. It's a coming of age vampire movie where a young boy befriends a young girl who turns out to be a vampire. As usual, I won't give you any more details about the plot because I don't want to spoil it for you, but this movie is absolutely phenomenal. Masterpiece. Troll Level and Dead Snow are fantastic, but Let the Right One In is a whole other level. It is absolutely fantastic. I will go on record and say right now it is probably one of the best vampire movies ever. Now you'll note I didn't put it in the vampire section, and that's because I wanted to put it here in the Scandinavian horror section because it's, in my opinion, and maybe everybody's opinion, the greatest Scandinavian horror movie ever made. So it seemed odd to not include it here. Plus, it allowed me to put a few extra vampire movies in the vampire section that I really like, because I do like vampire movies. But this movie is just so incredibly well made, so poignant, so heart wrenching and beautiful. It's all at once a coming of age movie and a romance movie and a bona fide vampire horror film. And I do mean bona fide vampire horror film. It's graphic and gruesome, and there is horror in this movie. It doesn't shy away from that. It's not like, oh, it's really kind of a drama, but I'm putting it here in the horror movies. No, it's a horror film, but it's so dramatic as well. You love these characters. The child actors playing the kids are fantastic, and they give wonderfully nuanced performances. And this movie is, as much as it is about scares and horror and drama, it's about mood. There is a certain feeling of isolatedness that is just accentuated by the cold atmosphere, the cold environment. Again, the area that this is shot in, the region is gorgeous. It's beautiful. There's a theme running through Scandinavian films that just beautiful, beautiful scenery, and this movie is no exception. But the director takes it a step further because it just looks absolutely gorgeous. This movie is so well shot, and it evokes these feelings of loneliness and isolation, and then there's these bright spots of just like connection with somebody. It's unbelievable. This movie is so great, and as you can see, I'm being rather effusive in my praise, and I stand by it. This movie is just an exceptional movie. It's darn near perfect. I don't know how you could improve on it or fix it. I guess the way that people thought to do that was to make it in English because it is in Swedish, and there was an American remake that was done in English. Here's the thing: the American remake's good too. We're going to talk about that somewhere else in the horror movie syllabus because that's good too. And the one thing they did is they upped the ages of the children a little bit, and that kind of gave it a different flavor, which I liked. But the young version of the children in this movie really evoke this innocence that, of course, gets turned on its head when you add the vampire motif into it. Absolutely fantastic, absolutely brilliant. Cannot recommend it enough. Cannot praise it enough. If you haven't seen it, go out and see it like right now. If you like vampire movies, you have to see this movie. If you're just a horror movie fan in general, you should see this movie. In fact, even if you're not a horror movie fan, you should probably see this movie. It's that good. I cannot praise it enough. I cannot recommend it enough. And I really, really hope you check it out. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me, if you think this movie is as great as I say it is, or if you think I'm being a little bit over the top, a little bit extra, if you will, on this one. I'd like to hear your opinions on it, and we can have a dialogue about it. If you don't share my opinion, that's okay, but let's go ahead and talk about it. And if you haven't seen it, let me know what you think when you do see it, and I say when because it's a must-see. Absolutely, you must see it. So those are our picks for the three best Scandinavian horror movies. But as always, we like to give a few extra credit films if you like this subgenre, and here we go. The first extra credit film we're going to mention is Cold Prey. And Cold Prey is apparently an amazing Norwegian slasher movie. I haven't seen it yet. And that's maybe the only reason why it hasn't made the horror movie syllabus is I just haven't seen it yet. But I am told it's fantastic. It's really high on my to-do list. I've been doing a lot of movies rewatching for the horror movie syllabus, so haven't gotten to it yet. But it's supposedly fantastic. There is a sequel. I don't know if the sequel gets as much love as the original, but by and large, Cold Prey is supposed to be one of the greatest Scandinavian horror movies of all time. And when I get around to it, maybe I'll update this list. I don't know. But supposedly, Cold Prey is great. I can't wait to watch it. If you've seen it already, let me know what I'm in for. Let me know if it's as good as people say. The second extra credit movie is Night Watch, which I have seen. It's about a night watchman who is tasked with watching over a morgue. And to say anything more would be spoiling, so I won't do that. This one is good. It's a lot of fun. And they did an American remake of this one as well. And that one was good too. That one, I think it starred Ewan McGregor, and it was definitely worth watching as well. I would definitely say this is one worth checking out. I don't know that it's must see, but it's a lot of fun. You won't be disappointed in it. And yeah, I think it definitely deserves a mention, if not a spot on the actual horror movie syllabus. And the last extra credit movie we're going to mention is Tal or Tal. I'm not Thal. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. I believe it's Tal. It's Thale. I tried to do some research on this on the internet, couldn't really quite figure it out. But suffice to say, it's another film I haven't seen, but I heard really good things about. It's one that when you look up the best Scandinavian horror films, do a little research online. This one tends to get mentioned. It's apparently about a female a supernatural creature or a mythical creature that gets found by two guys. Sounds like something that would be up my alley. I'm looking forward to seeing this one as well. It's on my list. That's maybe not as high as Cold Prey, but I'm curious about it. Again, if you've seen this one and you have some thoughts on it, share it in the comments below because we'd all like to hear about it. And if you haven't seen it, it's one that I'm going to go ahead and recommend as extra credit just to round out the list. So that's going to do it for our exploration of Scandinavian horror films. I hope you've enjoyed our discussion here today. Once again, leave comments down below if you've got some thoughts on other movies that maybe should have been included in this list, or if you're a connoisseur of Scandinavian horror, if you feel like you've got a bit to chime in on, share it with us. We all learn from sharing information with each other. With that, I hope you guys have a great day, and class dismissed.